I mean, it has been a while since we've heard anything about Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is crazy since it is launching this week. But I have got access to some exclusive B-roll gameplay that has been shot and, well, that you can get if you're a Ubisoft partner. However, whilst this is exclusive behind the scenes stuff, I haven't been paid for any of this. So I will be completely honest because I am very aware of the mad amount of details that has been in behind the scenes and the controversies that has come with this game. So we can see some brilliant and granted beautiful landscapes within this first bit of gameplay. I mean, one thing that you can say about Assassin's Creed Shadows is it looks gorgeous. They have actually knocked it out of the park graphically. And I'm not gonna lie, they kind of need to. This seemingly is Ubisoft's last chance to make something right. You see, Ubisoft has been going downhill for quite some time, and a lot of their games just haven't hit home. But Shadows is really their last port of call in order to get people back on board. And whilst there has been plenty of controversies with the characters picked to be portrayed within Shadows, the gameplay I think is the most important part. So that's what I'm going to be focusing on today. We can see some beautiful Japanese villages. We have paddy fields as well, things like that. We can see the different types of armor that's going to be used. There are various different types of guards that are shown and wildlife, much like wolves, whether domesticated or they are, well, out in the actual wild themselves as dangerous PvE elements. But throughout this bit of gameplay, what we're going to see is not just the landscapes. We're going to be able to see some stealth mechanics, some of the extra gadgets and bits and pieces that are used, and, well, everything that the game is hopefully going to fulfill. Plenty of people have actually played the game already, so some of this gameplay is coming from that, but one of these shots, I mean this one specifically, is absolutely gorgeous wandering into the Japanese towns. You can see the attention to detail on the armor, especially the horse armor, and as it moves with the horse's movements, it really does remind me of Ghost of Tsushima, and maybe, just maybe, it is sacrilege to compare it to that game, but graphically, I think it's pretty much on par with it. But it's all about these combat mechanics. You see, the stealth mechanics in the most recent Assassin's Creed games, I think, have been somewhat disappointing. With their kind of launch into the RPG genre, they've decided to do a 180 on that twist and go back to what Assassin's Creed was made when it first was originated. There is various new mechanics like expert difficulty, which is significantly improving your stealth experience. Enemies notice the player way more quickly, even if you're on rooftops. And of course, behind small walls, they can look over or they can hear you walking on the tiles above. Their hearing is actually good. I mean, it was a huge issue with the last Assassin's Creed games that stealth was just way too easy. And in general, these games have always been so easy. Especially now we're going back to the combat, which is kind of just click and counter. I really, really hope that the reports about this expert level in AC Shadows is actually to the, well, the difficulty setting that we are all goddamn hoping for. So here is our first bit of gameplay from the combat and the katana duel, and once again, kind of similar to what they did in Ghost of Tsushima, focusing on that 1v1 combat that, I mean, is it as realistic as people say with the whole Japanese honor? I would not particularly say so, but within this fantasy world, I think it's rather expected. Of course, you have the stylized kills as well. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about them at this point in time. I think they look cool, but it doesn't feel the most Assassin's Creed-y in the world. However, the weapons, my god, they're cool. Here we have the Naginata. You can see the Crescent Strike being used there. And you will see, there's a little stylized section, you will be able to see that there are some brutal takedowns, as in chopping people's arms and their heads off. It is one of the most brutal Assassin's Creed games, I would probably say. As you can see, we're playing as two characters here. Much like many of the other Assassin's Creed games in the most recent times, being able to pick between them. We've got our sheathed posture attack, being able to unsheath our sword in quick succession with attacks themselves. We have some looks at the outfits as well with our throwing and knives, as you'd expect. Expert difficulty, as I mentioned before, really increases the enemy damage and its durability, with environmental impacts being pretty important. There are like, well, explosive barrels that hopefully we'll see later in this gameplay that you're able to throw into enemies as well, and using things like the sheath katana to push people away, having jump attacks and that such. Now, Yasuki, who is one of the main characters, is actually better at throwing these explosive barrels because he is absolutely hench, and of course our other character is going to be able to be a bit more stealthy, as we can see, with kind of the slicker weapons as well. There'll be target encounters that occur randomly in the open world exploration, like better or tougher enemies that are doing something a little bit more like an RPG, and it seems that they're going to be mixing a lot of these RPG mechanics in with the game itself. So here are our assassination bits of gameplay. We can see the eye in the top telling how seen we are, being able to distract people or call our other assassins in order to help us, much like AC2 and things, or Revelations. It's very janky. You saw that assassin just walk through the other guy, which is incredibly worrying. I will do my full opinion at the end of this video, but a little hint to what I actually feel about this goddamn game. But in terms of assassination mechanics, they won't work if enemies can see you. There's a new indicator with red text that alerts the player. We've got our double assassinations coming back. It seems kind of pointless going in front of the enemy to get an assassination, but hey, we're all about looks here, I guess. The rain on the clothes, by the way, is something that we haven't seen too much, and they look gorgeous. Those are those red barrels that I spoke about earlier. Now, if you're not playing as the hench guy, you can actually just explode them with throwables as well. We get to see things like smoke bombs in a little bit as well, being able to distract the enemy, much like the earlier Assassin's Creed games. It basically is a hack. It doesn't matter if you're being chased or you're going into an enemy, throw a smoke bomb. They are as blind as a goddamn bat. Like, honestly, it is absolutely horrific. Either way, let's talk a little bit about this gameplay and what, well, my actual opinions on it. It is definitely Assassin's Creed. I mean, we're definitely coming back to the world that it was before Origins and less of the RPG. There are some cooler stealth mechanics. I like being able to hide in these crates. And of course, we see whistling to get people over, assassinate them, and put them back in those crates as well. I just hope that the reports on the expert difficulty and the harder levels are going to come into fruition, because AC games are too easy. They haven't evolved all that much, and unfortunately, I think this is a trend that we're seeing in many franchises. There's been pushes in the last 5 years for franchises to go into a new direction of greed and money, and it has hurt these big companies. At first, they saw big influxes because, well, there was quick succession of cash flow coming in from microtransactions and live service. I've just noticed there's the OBS logo on those banners, my god. But I don't think in the long term it has paid them very well. And actually what we're seeing is we've lost the last 5 or so years of game development, game progression. Things like Skull and Bones have been a disaster, and now they're going back to Assassin's Creed 4 Remake. We saw the Battlefield franchise with 2042 was a disaster, and now with the new one, they say they're going back to, well, Battlefield 4. Now we've got Assassin's Creed itself going back to before Origins, pre-2016 Assassin's Creed games. What's gone on here? Whilst we can say it probably kind of mechanically looks better than the RPGs that we've had and have had various successes, I'm gonna be honest, we're getting what we should have had in 2015. All these franchises are going back to the earlier 2010s in terms of their mechanics, because the last 5-6 years have been going backwards in terms of progression, and they've ruined these franchises for the good. Here we can see some smoke bombs being in use as well. You saw the little face on the smoke bomb. I've only just noticed that. That does actually look quite goddamn cool. So unfortunately, if we're taking away all the controversy with the story that's trying to be told here, and Ubisoft just not exactly ever listening to its fan base, also the weight that is on this game succeeding, if I'm going to be honest, it doesn't matter how good this game looks or even is, because it should only be praised for what we are seeing here, which is essentially the last 5 years of game development being wiped out and going back to what it should have been before. Imagine where these franchises could have been if they stuck with the route they were heading in and evolving them with the correct route of progression. Instead, well, we're getting what should have been, rather than what real praise should be warranted to. But I would love to know what you think. How do you see this game working out? There's some beautiful things here in terms of like the graphics and the scenery. Of course, the stealth mechanics are reportedly a lot better than the last few Assassin's Creed games. Snow, rain, summer, blossom, all these seasons and weather do fit and they do all look really nice. But I will leave you with the last few bits of gameplay for your lovely little eyes and a few flips, I'm guessing.